With horsepower that leads its class, Yukon dominates the road.
Even towing feels like child's play.
Yukon by GMC. It puts you comfortably in command.
Right now, it's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
Rain and hail batter the Northeast on this Labor Day, and the storms are being blamed for the deaths of at least 3 people so far. Hello, I'm Mike Seidel, and welcome to this edition of Weather Center.
And I'm Christina Abernathy. Fortunately, the weather has calmed, but it will take a while to clean up the mess and restore power to thousands of people. One of the fatalities today was here in the Bronx when strong winds brought down this huge tree limb. 1 woman was killed and 2 other people were hurt. On Manhattan's Upper West Side, the heavy rain and winds took down a scaffolding, blew out a window, and sent bricks flying. The storms also raked Long Island, where crews were busy tonight clearing fallen trees and trying to restore power. At one point, more than 100,000 homes from Queens to Suffolk County were without power. The storms stopped play at Shea Stadium between the Mets and Braves. Winds picked up around 2:30 this afternoon, kicking up dirt and blowing debris all over the field. Ground crews scrambled to cover the infield. So what a mess there, and still dealing with some messy weather out there right now as that front continues to push through the northeastern U.S. We still have some rain and some thunderstorms here, and we also have some wet weather in the west as well as the Gulf. Mike will have more on this coming up in just a moment. But the lightning data showing that still some scattered storms in the west and in the east. Each little red mark here indicates a lightning strike, so we are still seeing that here through parts of Virginia and parts of the northeast. Now keep in mind, some of these storms could be strong. That's something to watch out for in the mid-Atlantic states, but also in the west. We've had some pretty rough weather here through the northeastern U.S. This evening and earlier today, and we still have rain and storms now extending from around Hartford to New York to Philly and D.C. and in West Virginia this evening. We've had numerous reports of trees and power lines down and even a report of a possible tornado. A closer view shows again that New York City, you're getting the wet weather now out to Long Island as we head southward into Philly, Baltimore, D.C. Still some soggy weather around and still some storms embedded within this, so it will get better, but certainly not yet. You're still in the thick of it. To the west we go, and scattered showers and storms here underneath these bright white clouds, and we're seeing that in Southern California, into Nevada as we move northward. Just another perspective on the wet weather here, and we also see that into the Pacific Northwest around Quileute. It's been a bit soggy, but also Idaho and western Montana. As a matter of fact, there is the potential for flash flooding here, a flash flood watch in effect for a good chunk here of western Idaho. So look out. We've got the rain in the west, the rain and the storms in the east, but also the potential for wet weather along the Gulf Coast, and Mike has more on that.
And Christina, we're monitoring the Gulf of Mexico very closely for possible tropical development. We have a broad area of low pressure, generally centered in the Bay of Campeche. Most of the higher or colder cloud tops, the heavier tropical rains are located north of this area. Hurricane hunters, the Air Force Reservists, the aircraft will take off from Keesler and head down here, scheduled to head into the area, investigate it sometime on Tuesday afternoon, and we'll know a little bit more then. However, it looks like tonight that the convection, the showers and storms, getting a little bit better organized. By the way, this is in a very favorable environment for development. Upper level winds showing that anticyclonic flow like this at the higher levels of the atmosphere. Also, unlike Earl, we don't have a lot of wind coming in from the west, what we would term wind shear. Remember, Earl had very little action on the west side of the west side of itself. Most of it was on the east and northeast side. However, this is not the case. We don't have And once again, we're watching the Gulf of Mexico, tropical weather trying to develop there. We do have a new tropical storm to show you, Tropical Storm Javier, and a check-in on the severe weather in the States. First, though, a look at the Gulf of Mexico as we kick off a tropical update, all part of Storm Watch here on the Weather Channel. And we do have a lot of showers and even some thunderstorms. Heavy tropical rains now in the Gulf. Hurricane Hunter aircraft, the Air Force Reservists from Keesler Air Force Base, are scheduled to take a trip out here on Tuesday afternoon and investigate this area to find out what's going on as far as possible tropical formation. That would mean a possible development of a depression. Now, we don't have anything yet. However, pressures are generally low across this area. We basically have a broad area of low pressure, and that has basically been in the Bay of Campeche. Most of the heavier rainfall elements, the brighter colors here, the reds and oranges, have been north of where we've had the lowest pressure. Now, once we have that Hurricane Hunter aircraft into the area on Tuesday, we'll have a better idea where the lowest pressure is, where there is a center of circulation, if there is, instead of what we have now. However, this evening, late tonight, we're starting to see something that looks a little bit more well-developed, a little healthier on the satellite loop. We do have winds aloft blowing this way anticyclonically. That's favorable for development. We also have very little wind shear, unlike with Earl. Remember, with Earl, we had a lot of wind coming in on its west side, and Earl got stretched out like this, and there was very little bad weather on the west side of Earl. So we don't have much wind shear. The upper level winds are favorable. The sea surface temperatures in the Gulf, 85 to 90. So at this point, it seems very likely that we will get something developed over the next couple of days. Very possible that we could have a tropical depression here. If it does get upgraded from there to a tropical storm, it would be called Tropical Storm Francis. If you're watching along the Gulf Coast, you need to stay close to the Weather Channel because with systems developing here this close to land, it could impact you directly very quickly, as we saw with Earl. So be prepared and stay with us. We'll give you the latest, of course. Switching gears now through the Caribbean. Very, very quiet, good vacation weather, good cruising weather. A few thunderstorms earlier across Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. But out towards the islands right now, it's looking pretty good. Not a whole lot happening after some rain yesterday across some of the Lesser Antilles. Now, this wave we looked at last night had a lot of brighter colors with it. Tonight, the colors are pretty much not there, a lot of gray shades. So right now we're not overly concerned with this having any direct impact on the islands. But check this out. Look at this swirl coming off the African coastline. A huge batch of showers and thunderstorms, and much like Bonnie, this swirl is starting early and is very broad in nature. So this bears a very close watching over the next couple of days, this and the Gulf of Mexico. As I mentioned, we do have a new tropical storm in the Pacific, Tropical Storm Javier, which developed just an hour or so ago, upgraded from TD number 11E. Winds of 40 miles an hour moving west-northwest at 12, expected to continue to develop very slowly over the next couple of days, but it's also expected to move in this direction out towards cooler water, and that may keep it from becoming a hurricane. Nonetheless, it is moving away from land at this point, so that's good news. We don't expect any direct impact on the Baja or the west coast of Mexico for the next couple days, especially if it continues this motion away from the continent. But that could change, as we've seen with tropical systems, so you need to stay tuned to the Weather Channel. That is a look at your tropics. Again, those of you anywhere from Texas along the Gulf Coast to Florida need to stay close the next couple of days as we watch developments in the Bay of Campeche and the Gulf of Mexico. Let's come back home now and check out the severe weather for the rest of tonight. This front has really caused problems today and last night, late last night and today. We had a couple of lines of very strong storms whip through the northeast. Some of the winds were clocked at nearly 100 miles an hour. We've had at least 3 fatalities so far in the New York City area, trees falling down on folks, and a lot of power outages and a lot of trees down, so the cleanup will continue for the next couple of days. In the meantime, we're watching this area for the possibility of some severe weather. Now, we had a watch out earlier for West Virginia. It was supposed to go until midnight, but it has now been canceled just a little bit early. But we still have the rains tonight to show you. If you're watching tonight from Baltimore, D.C., Philadelphia, you can see a batch of fairly heavy rainfall, but there are no severe thunderstorm warnings where these showers and these elements on the radar are moving off to the east. Look at around Dewey Beach, Ocean City, back to Salisbury. Next hour or so, you'll get some rain. This is right along that cold front. Once the front moves on through, you'll be in great shape for the morning drive in the D.C., Washington, Philadelphia area, and New York too. A few leftover showers, but nothing like you had earlier today. So we'll keep you updated. Meanwhile, the Tuesday morning forecast shows that front continuing to push south. We'll keep monitoring the Gulf for you in the days to come. Next on Weather Center, a recap of today's devastating weather which impacted the Northeast. Stay with us.
A rough Labor Day weather-wise for many in the Northeast as dangerous storms race through the region. Details on the severe weather, plus your forecast just ahead on Weather Center. This is Jane.
Hi, I was coming down. I'm in sales.
This is Jane's car.
Travel.